up, guys? Wildcard weekend has now officially come and gone, and it was absolutely as good as advertised. We saw Trevor Lawrence pull off one of the greatest comebacks in NFL playoff history. We saw the Dolphins and the Ravens actually putting up way more of a fight than I think any of us really expected. The Giants upset the Vikings. You know, as a diehard football fan, it was everything that I was hoping for, honestly. So as I reflect on each of these insane games over this last weekend, I actually wanted to make a list of the unsung hero of each individual game. So to be clear, I'm saying unsung hero. So what I'm talking about are the guys that maybe didn't get enough of the credit and kind of had low-key, out-of-this-world performances that nobody's really talking about that much. I won't have Trevor Lawrence or Brock Purdy on the list because everybody knows they were the hero of the game. They did something special, so they are the hero of the game. What I'm talking about are the guys that either nobody expected to have the game that they did, or maybe aren't getting enough praise for the victory and love that they deserve, at least from what I've seen. With that, I'll quit rambling and get into it. Starting with the unsung hero of the San Francisco win over the Seahawks. And that guy is Charles Omenihu. I apologize to any 49ers fans if I'm butchering that name, but Omenihu was a problem for the Seattle offensive line. Yes, Nick Bosa was pretty much constantly double teamed, freed up some space for the other guys to go to work, but nobody took advantage of this opportunity as much as Omenihu. He finished the game with 3 combined tackles, 2 sacks, a tackle for a loss, and a QB hit. And he forced a huge fumble that was ultimately recovered by Bosa. What honestly bugged me the most about that forced fumble was the commentary. When he made that play, I remember the announcer saying something like, "It was all Nick Bosa," when in reality, they were wrong. It was Omenihu. It was Charles Omenihu who got his hand in there, got to the quarterback, got his hand in there, and did the most important part of the job, knocking the ball out. Bosa fell on top of it, which is, you know, a task in itself, and that was awesome. But anyway, check this out.
Pressure. Ball is out. San Francisco's on it. It was all Nick Bosa.
I mean, give my man some credit here. They tried to correct their error after a commercial break or something, and it almost seemed kind of bummed out that they had to clarify that it was actually Omenihu who knocked it out and not Bosa. Anyway, the commentators didn't give him the clout that I think he deserved, so I'm giving it to him here. Another crazy thing is he only had 4.5 sacks throughout the entire season up to that point. And none of those were in the same game. And he only had 1 forced fumble during the entire regular season as well. So he, without a doubt, saved his best game of the year and possibly one of, if not the best game of his career for the biggest stage. And man, you love to see it. My second unsung hero of the weekend was New York Giants wide receiver Isaiah Hodgins. Hodgins was a 6th-round pick in the 2020 draft, and he was actually traded from the Bills to the Giants earlier this year. During this season, he only played in 8 games, and during that time, he recorded 33 catches for 351 yards and scored 4 touchdowns. It's pretty solid, but it's not out of this world or anything. But with all that being said, my man balled out on Sunday against the Vikings. He caught 8 of his 9 targets for 105 yards and scored a huge 14-yard red zone touchdown in the first quarter to give the Giants the lead. The best game of his career up to that point had been a Christmas Eve matchup against the Vikings, in which he caught 8 passes for 89 yards and he scored a touchdown. So this is undoubtedly the best game he's ever had as a pro. So again, another guy who had the best game of his career on the biggest stage. I think that's super cool. My final unsung hero in the NFC has to go to Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is definitely going to get all the headlines for the dub. There was no answer for what Dak was doing on the ground and through the air. And while they didn't have any answer for Dak, they also didn't have an answer for Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, once again, has proved that he's among one of the best tight ends in the entire NFL. And he certainly showed this during the 31-14 blowout over the Buccaneers, as he hauled in 7 of his 8 targets for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. The guy was incredible. Now on to the AFC. My unsung hero of the Jags' insane comeback win over the Chargers has to be Travis Etienne. I know. Despite missing the entire last season, Etienne has now officially made a name for himself, and he's among the best running backs in the league. He was likely in the Pro Bowl conversation. But with that said, virtually all of the credit for the win is going to Trevor Lawrence. And again, Trevor Lawrence deserves a ton of credit for that game. It was honestly the most amazing turnaround performance I have ever seen in pro football. He started off the game with 4 interceptions. They were down 27-0. He became Superman in that second half. But with that said, I don't seem to hear anybody talking about the masterful performance Travis Etienne displayed during that game. Etienne rushed the ball 20 times for 109 yards. That's about 5.5 yards a carry. He caught his only target for 12 yards, and on what, in my opinion, was an overly risky call by Doug Peterson. He ran for an enormous first down at the end of the game to set up Riley Patterson for a 36-yard chip shot field goal to win the game. This is another guy that, while he is a big name, and so he's not exactly unsung, I think in this performance, I don't think he's getting enough credit. So, I don't know. That's my pick in that game. My second pick in the AFC for the unsung hero of the week. While there were a few options on the Bills defense that I could have gone with, a few guys had some really good games, I'm going to give the title to Matt Milano. Milano finished the game with 10 combined tackles and recorded a pair of sacks. Sticking with a similar theme, 5th round pick out of Boston College only recorded 1.5 sacks throughout the entire regular season, and he got to Skylar Thompson twice in the first round of the postseason. Aside from that, he's only recorded 10 sacks in his entire 6-year career with the Bills, and he just had 2. Again, just another guy who seemed to save his best performance for the playoffs. I thought it was so sweet. And finally, my last unsung hero in the matchup between the Bengals and the Ravens, I'm gonna go with Bengals defensive end Sam Hubbard. I know that's not, a shock there. His play is all over SportsCenter. I mean, it was pretty crazy. But Hubbard only recorded 4 combined tackles during the game, and he only hit Huntley 1 time. But in that fourth quarter, with the game tied at 17, the game was way closer than I thought it would be. I'm going to be honest. In the fourth quarter, the game was tied 17-17, and the Ravens had the ball at the goal line. They were 1 yard away from taking a 7-point lead over the Bengals and being in prime position to upset the boys in Cincinnati. And Huntley, on a QB sneak, did that QB sneak style where you don't go underneath, you kind of jump over the top and just try to break the plane. And as he reached over to cross the plane with the ball popped out, and right place at the right time, Sam Hubbard was there to scoop it up, and this big boy ran that ball 98 yards and got in the end zone. And instead of the Ravens taking the lead and at the late stages of the game, the Bengals did. And it ultimately proved to be the game-winning touchdown. It was awesome. I was expecting the Joe Burrow show. It didn't quite turn out that way. Joe Burrow had a solid game. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't the shootout sort of blowout game that I was expecting. That's tough for a big man to take it to the house in general. And he didn't just take it to the house. He ran 98 yards and needed oxygen on the sideline afterward. It was awesome, man. Also, talking about the unsung portion of this video, during the post-game interview on the field after the game was over, I forget what her name is, but she was interviewing both Hubbard and Joe Burrow, and they both received game balls for their performances. As they were wrapping up the interview, she turned to Sam Hubbard and she was like, "Wow, how does that game ball feel? It's probably the first one you've ever had."
You guys both got the game ball. It's probably your first game ball ever, right?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe this big, but I'll take it.
I thought it was a little bit of a diss, personally. He handled it like a pro, and he said, not a game ball this big, but I'll take it, or something like that. And in my opinion, that humble response makes him even more of a hero this week, in my opinion. Maybe she didn't realize or consider the fact that this guy is a defensive end in the NFL. I'm sure he's received many game balls throughout his entire life. So no, it's definitely not the first game ball that he's ever received. And I doubt that it's even the first game ball that he's received for the Bengals. So I thought that was kind of goofy. Anyway, those are my unsung heroes of the wild card round, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, I probably should have gone Gabe Davis over Matt Milano, but who cares? I'm going Milano. As always, if you got anything out of this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Again, I'm still pretty new to this, so any support would mean a lot to me. I'm going to continue posting pretty regularly, so if you have any interest whatsoever in checking out any future videos, hit that notification bell as well. Thanks for checking out another video, and have a great day.